officially started, and I remembered to do the recording. Those always get put up. You can always look at those if you are needing a review. I did notice on attendance, okay, and I'm looking at it for not attendance really, but for other issues. And there's one person at least, and oh, I can email them, but there's an EX in their email address. Okay, so that may help. But I've been noticing they come into the group meeting here or Zoom meeting, and then they cut off, then they're back, then they're cut off, then they're back. And looking at the times, it looks like they're having Wi-Fi trouble. You know, they can't keep connected. That's not their fault, probably, but it's something that's got to be fixed. It's got to be fixed before the practicum. All of everybody, you need to have decent Wi-Fi before the practicum on next Thursday, because it's intensely filled with images, 100 images, and you have to be able to get them. You may get the first one slow, but they all seem to load up at the same time. So that after the first one has loaded, they're all loaded and you're set to go. And if that happens, I can adjust the time, add a minute or two for that happening. You can email me during the test if you're having significant Wi-Fi problems. And sometimes I can fix that. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes we restart the test and that works. Okay. But you need to use the Chrome browser first off. If you're not using Chrome browser, don't even bother telling me that you got a problem, because that's the problem. You got to use it. I find it kind of simple. It's not very exciting to me, but it's what works with Canvas. Okay, so please use the Chrome browser on the exam. Okay, you know probably better than I do, but you need to try to sit close to the router in your house. You can't have other people playing video games and such, even in the next room. They're drawing off of your Wi-Fi, and that takes it down too. And if you really know that you have a problem, then you may have to try a different laptop, go to a library, or go to a safe place where you can get Wi-Fi. Okay. Most of you have taken online courses before because you were here last semester. So however you solve that then, that probably will work now. If you didn't solve it then, you haven't solved it now, and we're going to run into problems. Okay. Any questions about Wi-Fi connections? We don't need that to be in our way. Okay, what's going to happen here is that the people at the top of the screen, do you see a screen or do you just see me?
I just see you right now.
Oh, too bad. Okay, you might be able to change the view at the top right of the screen. But I can see all of you, and I can see the first half have their video on, the bottom half don't. And I'm afraid the bottom half's not having it on. The top half's going to say, well, why should I? And pretty soon I'll be looking at a black screen, and I won't have that. It's not in the cards for me. So please, if you would, just while we're doing this face-to-face talking, please turn on your video. Okay. You will otherwise assume that you're not here. You just put a card up in front of yourself. And,
Charlie?
yes.
I'm on my way home from work, but I'm like 2 minutes away, but I'll turn on my
my video once I'm home, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm not hard to get along with. If I didn't want to get along with you, I wouldn't want to see you. Okay. Kareem, why'd you take the picture off?
I'm just changing my shirt, but
Oh wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it's really hot in my room, so I'm
Yeah,
just
but
changing
this
my
is
shirt.
anatomy class.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that when I see you in class.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully we're in class in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But hopefully in 3 weeks, if we're in class, it's safe to be in class. You know, I'm not in the mood to take all of us into a bad environment at all. So anyway, enough said for right now. We've got 3 weeks to think about that. Okay. So am I assuming that MLA Shard is not here? And it's just a blank board. Joshua, you here?
I'm here.
Okay, can I see you? Thank you, Katie. And Julia, you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, after that rough start we had at the beginning of the semester, you have been all over the place. My God. So
Yeah,
much
now I'm catching up on that.
Oh yeah, you did. Okay. Some people have gone ahead. I don't know sometimes how you can go ahead. Just at least stay up. Stay up. Even. Okay. Any other questions? Then we'll go. Let's see if we get this today. Yes, we did. Okay, in the third week, here we are. Okay. I've inserted something since the last time. I did insert a week 3 discussion. The week 3 assignment, just to remind you, was chapter 2. So you have chapters 1, 6, 9, and 2 due before the practicum next Thursday. That practicum, just to say a couple of words about it. If you've been studying, and I don't mean cramming, I don't mean all night sessions and stuff like that. Are you dreaming bones? Yeah, some people probably are. That test is not that hard. It is the easiest test we give. So you want to get all the points that you possibly can on the bone practicum, plus the extra credit that comes with it if you finish the assignments, so that when the tests get a little harder and you lose a few points, you've got some extra points in the bank. Okay, it definitely will help you. Okay, what I put into week 3 I did last night. And this is identified. I gave this to the most of you in discussion last week, but I want everybody to participate. If you do this in discussion, you don't need to do it here. Okay. When I look who's done anything, I have in front of me a little spreadsheet as you signed in for both classes, if you are, or just the Bio 11, if that's all you opted for. Okay. So this is a quiz on the bones, and you make up a question. You're actually making up one question with 5 choices, if you'd read this, okay, and you're making up one question on a test. Now, we don't have 100 people in the class, so if the unbelievable happened and I got all 31 of you to make a question, we would have a 31 question test that we could take a look at later together. Okay. Sometimes the author of a question doesn't know the answer themselves, and we need to make the correction sometimes, but that's rare. Okay. So you make up one question, for instance, and it can be anywhere out of the bone practicum material. It can even be out of the lecture material, as far as I'm concerned for this one. Okay. Which of the following is an irregular bone? Okay, that would be your question, for instance. And you would write it here. The first person writes under reply and then writes the question here. An irregular, which of the following is an irregular bone? And I might put A, rib, B, parietal, C, occipital, D, sphenoid, and E, O, cuboid. And the answer would be D, the sphenoid, very irregular in shape. Another irregular bone might be the ethmoid that we could pick. And any of the vertebrae are irregular as well. So there's lots of different answers. How long would it take you to make that question up? Not long to type it up anyway, but to think it out and find a good question or one that you like. Well, a couple minutes. Okay, so not asking a lot, but I am asking you to try with me to put together a small test that everybody can take. And we'll take it together if we can. Also, I know I've been asked what's going to be on the lecture test, what's going to be on the lab test. Well, the first one is the first lab test, practicum 1. So I'm backing up to week 1. And when you see the word lab here, that's going to be on the practicum. I usually, a couple days, that'd be Tuesday before the test, indent this so you really know. Here's lab. That's going to be on the laboratory exam. Next week, lab. Third week, lab. And we will finish the bones today. Okay. For lecture, you can see lecture. Wherever it says lecture at the end of it, that's for lecture test. Will there ever be overlap? Yes, because sometimes during a lecture and during a lab, the same information is given. So it's given in both places. You won't miss it. If it's under lecture, it'll be on the lecture test. If it's under lab, it'll be on the lab test. Okay, so now we did cell division the other day. These are the bones and figure locations for the lower appendicular skeleton. Okay. It looks intimidating, but I think by now you realize that your ability to memorize is a match for this. All of these structures are fair game on the practical examination. All of them. Now, the false pelvis and true pelvis, I haven't given to you yet. If I haven't talked about something, it won't be on the test. If I haven't talked about something and it somehow manages to get onto the test, what should I do about it? The answer is give everybody credit for that question. Okay. No surprises. But those are the only two true and false pelvis that I can see. We went down to the phalanges of the foot, but we haven't yet done the knee. We'll do that right now. Okay. This, by the way, should say guide. And now it does. Okay, here are the, this is lab material. I'm going to go ahead and finish the lab material first. The lab material is bones. Let's finish the bones as a unit, the whole thing. And then the muscle, muscle tissue is the subject of the next lecture. And since there's a change over then from bones to muscle, let's make it a clean change. Let's finish the bones first. So we're back to where we were yesterday. Remember this. I'll scroll down kind of slowly here in case you have a question. On the patella, the kneecap, now you see it in place. Okay. The patella, all you have to do is identify it. You do not have to give me the apex. This is the base back here. And on the posterior side, there are a couple of facets, but they're unnamed here. The only thing you have to give me on the kneecap is the proper name, patella. Here are the bones of the foot. And then now we look at the knee. The anterior view is on the left. Here's the patella, and it's pulled aside slightly. The patella is anchored to the tibial tuberosity by the patellar tendon. This is patellar tendon. The top or superior border of the patella is anchored by the quadriceps tendon. This quadriceps tendon goes to 4 bones, quadriceps. These 4 bones are in the thigh, the upper thigh. They're the lateral and vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, the rectus femoris, and the vastus intermedius. Well, you don't know those names yet. You're not supposed to. They come in the next section when we do the muscle. Okay. Now this is a true tendon, the quadriceps tendon here, attached to the superior border of the patella. A tendon attaches bone, the patella, to muscle, those 4 muscles that I just named. On the underside, this particular book that I got this from, it didn't realize it until later, has misnamed this structure. It's called here the patellar tendon. And if you were ever to give it to me, I would count it correct. But it really is the patellar ligament. Now, you're not going to have an opportunity to make a mistake because of that. It's going to be a multiple choice test. Okay, and I will use, if I want this structure, I will use patellar ligament, because that's what it really is. A ligament attaches bone, that's the tibial tuberosity, to bone, not bone to tendon. Bone to tendon, or bone to muscle, is a tendon. Bone to bone is a ligament. Unfortunately, throughout anatomy in your textbook, these words get interchanged quite a bit. And it's just something that disturbs me all the time, that anatomy, being such a precise science, isn't always precise. Okay, so let's get rid of this. We've got patellar ligament going to the patella, going to the quadriceps tendon. Okay. Now we've got to account for how the femur, this upper bone here, attaches to the tibia and the fibula. Laterally and medially, there are two ligaments, properly named ligaments. Here's one, and here's the other. This one over here, attaching the lateral condyle of the femur to the head of the fibula, is the lateral collateral ligament. How would you know that that's the lateral and not the medial?
It's on the lateral side.
It's on the lateral side. And how do you always know the lateral side?
Fibula is always on the
Fibula is on the lateral side. Good. Remember that, and it solves a lot of problems quickly. So this is the lateral collateral ligament. It'll also be called, but not by me, the fibular collateral ligament. Okay, and you can see why, but I like lateral collateral ligament. And what's the collateral mean? It means there's one on the other side. Here's the medial collateral ligament, holding these two together. They don't look strong enough to me to have you walking a lifetime on this knee. You need more. Okay. So you're going to have the femur, the condyles of the femur here and back here, resting in small little dish-shaped troughs called menisci. A singular is a meniscus. We'll catch that over here in just a second. You also have a ligament that goes from the front, yet behind the patella, but at the anterior to the posterior. Okay, and this is the anterior cruciate ligament, the ACL. The posterior cruciate ligament is being shown, or an attempt is being made to show it back here, behind it. But it should show better on the other side when we turn it around. Let's turn it around to the posterior. This was a right bone, by the way, facing forward, this side's lateral. This has got to be right. This bone over here has the fibula over on the lateral side. We're looking at from the back. This bone has to be left. If these had been taken from the same book, you would expect that they would just take the first drawing, the right one, by that I mean the right knee, and turn it around, and we'd have the back of the right knee. But that's not the case here. This is the left knee. And the reason is, if you look at the font, these two pictures came from different books. Okay, I found them. I thought they were good, but I thought I should point that out too. Okay, here's the fibula. It's on the lateral side. Here's our lateral collateral ligament. Here's our medial collateral ligament. Okay. And here are the two troughs that the condyles of the femur sit in. The trough, you can barely see it, it's like a shallow pool, is the lateral meniscus. Lateral meniscus. If you've ever looked at a test tube partially filled with water, the water at the top is not straight across. It tries to crawl up the sides of the test tube and makes a little bowl. That's called a meniscus. This is too. Here's the lateral meniscus, and here's the medial meniscus on this side. When they break down, they can, in some people, more than others, then you're going to have bone rubbing against bone and quite a bit of pain. Okay. But there's lots of cures for that. Sometimes they just need to go in and cut away a loose piece of meniscus, sort of sand it down, if you will. Sometimes they need to go in and resurface, or a knee replacement, as it's called. Okay, here's the medial meniscus, here's the lateral meniscus. The posterior cruciate ligament is actually here. I know it's pointing and saying anterior cruciate ligament. That's wrong. Okay, I'm making a note to myself. Fix this drawing. And I can fix it. Okay. This is the posterior cruciate ligament. First one you touch on the posterior side. First one you touch on the anterior side is the anterior cruciate ligament. ACL, PCL. When you listen to sports announcers, and you'll hear a lot of it, I guess, in Super Bowl when it comes around. When you listen to the sports announcers, their vocabulary is kind of limited sometimes, but they always know ACL and PCL, every other word, especially when they're talking about injuries to players. The ACL, the PCL. In basketball, same thing. You'll hear it over and over. Since they're used so frequently, anterior cruciate ligament, posterior cruciate ligament, as ACL and PCL, you may also use them that way. You may use ACL and PCL, and I may use ACL and PCL. How would you fix this? Like I said, I intend to fix it tonight. This is not the anterior cruciate ligament. This is the posterior cruciate ligament. Okay. How would you fix that? This is a PDF file. You almost can't monkey with a PDF file. Anybody? Well, what I'm going to do is use snippet. And I will snip out an area where it says the proper name, posterior cruciate ligament, snip it, paste it right on top of this, send this to the background, and then make another PDF file, and it's fixed. Okay. My bad for not noticing that earlier, though. Okay, now back out of that because that was at the end. Sorry. And now this should be up here. X-rays. Okay. Like I said the other day, when you get to a health profession, most of the bones that you're ever going to look at do not look like the bones coming out of a clean bone box. You're going to actually see a few maybe compound fractures, but most of the bones that you'll ever see, or I have ever seen, are X-rays. So I have this ongoing discussion with the rest of the anatomy instructors. Why aren't we doing more X-rays? Why aren't we doing more X-rays? The answer keeps coming back. We spent so much money on the bone boxes. Well, you shouldn't have. So here for the X-rays. Gotta open it in a new window. Okay, and I just picked one site here. If you want more sites, you can get them off of Charlie's webpage. And let's start here with the shoulder. I think any of you would recognize that as the shoulder, right here anyhow. This is the humerus, head of the humerus. Right here, this line is the anatomical neck. The surgical neck would be down here. Now, you need to know, of course, that the humerus articulates with the scapula. And it does so right here at the glenoid fossa or cavity. You can see it over on this one as well. At first, looking at an x-ray can be daunting. You can think, how am I ever going to get that? You know, it doesn't make any sense. So go to the second one. Glenoid cavity, glenoid fossa. This is that little broken finger that I told you about. Okay, it's the coracoid. The coracoid process. The clavicle, which is an S-shaped flat bone, the clavicle rests upon the coracoid process, and it ends or terminates at its external extremity with the acromion process. This is the acromion process coming back along the spine of the scapula, and we can't see it all from this side. It's sort of like a mini discovery. You find one part, the next part, then you, oh, that's what the next part is, and that must be that. Pretty soon, you got it down. This is an elbow. I think one of the first things that you would look for is the radius. It's a dead giveaway. There's the head of the radius. There's the neck. And this bump is the radial tuberosity. Along with the radius in the forearm, we have the ulna. So that must be here. And it's going up into this large fossa. This is the olecranon, fossa, receiving the olecranon. Many people pronounce it olecranon. Most people never have occasion to pronounce it out loud anyway. Okay, so let's call it olecranon into the olecranon fossa. The radius is always on which side? The lateral side or medial side of the forearm?
The lateral side?
It's on the lateral side. The radius is always lateral. Put out one of your hands like you're going to shake hands with somebody. With your thumb up. Go from your thumb straight back into your forearm, and you're touching your radius. Now, put your hand in anatomical position, which is to turn it outward, and the radius goes laterally. The radius is always lateral. The thumb is always attached to the radius. The thumb and the radius. Okay. Well, we used to have a gesture when I was in college. We'd stick our thumb up in the air and we'd say rad. I think these days people say sweet, although that seems rather weak. What else do you guys say when something's good? You want to acknowledge it.
I'll say that's sick.
That's sick?
Yeah.
Huh, I haven't heard that one.
Some people will say that's lit, I hear.
That's what?
That's lit.
Lit?
Fire. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. This may be politically incorrect, but historically accurate. We used to say things were bitching. Okay, just remember the thumb though. When you put your thumb in the rad position, it's rad. Okay, thumb up, attached to the radius. Now, there's a couple other things then to get out of this one picture. This protrusion is on the lateral side of the humerus. This is the lateral epicondyle. And the sharper one on the other side must be the medial epicondyle. There's still one more thing to get out of this. Realize that when you have an x-ray, you can see right through things. You're seeing the front, anterior, and the back, posterior, at the same time. So here, there's overlap. You can see it looks like there's overlap. The ulna is covering up this area here on its other side. And this little mountain here is the coracoid process. Coracoid process of the ulna. It's at the bottom of the trochlear notch. Now we can't see the trochlear notch here. It lies in all of this area on the far side. Here's a lateral view, or is it a medial view of an elbow? Well, the answer to that is you can't tell. Lateral and medial, you're looking right on through it. So what you got to do with an x-ray is start by identifying the things that you can. Well, here's the head of the radius again. Neck and radial tuberosity. Okay, we got the radius out of the way. This must be the ulna. This must be the olecranon. And come all the way around to the front. That little point must be the coracoid process. Now the rounded structure in there is going to be the capitulum. the trochlea may be deeper in the picture on the other side, or it may actually, the trochlea may be in front of the capitulum, depending upon if we have a right or a left elbow. We can't see it. It's obliterated. Okay, and we just have to give up at that point on that one. Okay. This isn't going to show us anything. Now, why am I showing you x-rays? Because there are some x-rays on the exam. Okay, it's 100 questions, and approximately 10 of the questions are x-rays. And they won't give you any more trouble than the rest of the test, and I don't expect the rest of the test to give you trouble anyway. Where's the thumb here? Is it this one or this one? Is it left or right?
Right.
This is the thumb. So this is metacarpal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so what? X-ray? Great. Metacarpal 1 articulates with the trapezium. 2 articulates with the trapezoid. 3 articulates with the capitate. 4 and 5 articulate with the hamate. If you've got that down, or get that down before next Thursday, this won't be of any concern to you. Okay, here's the scaphoid underneath, going underneath the capitate, then the lunate. Here's the triangular, also known as triquetral or triquetrum. It's right here. And here, you can barely see it. It's eclipsing the triangular. This is the pisiform. This is the thumb. So is this the radius or the ulna?
Radius.
It's the radius, because the thumb is always on the radial side. This is the radius. This must be the ulna. Looks smaller, but this is the head end of the ulna, and this is the styloid process. We don't see the styloid process. It doesn't show here, or the radius. Styloid process, though, here of the ulna.
Lang nga yan.
This looks at the hand in general. I'm going to guess that you won't have any trouble calling these distal, middle, and proximal phalanges. People don't seem to have that problem. You know what the problem people have on the test is? They can't count the 5 sometimes. They're in too much of a hurry. Too much of a hurry. Okay. Digit 1, digit 2, 3, 4, 5. So this bone, the ring finger, actually, if the ring were on it, is the proximal phalanx of digit 4. Okay. Here are the metacarpals. And here are the carpals themselves. Carpals number 8 in each hand. This one gives you an opportunity to see a labeled version. Let's try it ourselves first. Of the pelvis. Okay, well, back here we have the sacrum. It ends right here, and the joint here, and on the other side is the sacroiliac joint. Okay. Here's the iliac crest. only because we remember it. This is the iliac fossa, not because we can make it out on this x-ray. Okay. We cannot see on this x-ray the anterior, superior and anterior inferior iliac spines. They'd be out here in the darkness. The posterior iliac spines would be here and here, the ends of the iliac, sacroiliac joint. They cannot be seen in an assembled pelvis. So they're not here. Okay. This point is, however, here. Okay. This is the ischial spine. Ischial spine. Above it is the greater sciatic notch. We can see the head and neck of the femur. In shadow, head, neck of the femur, and this structure here must be the lateral trochanter. The medial trochanter only shows up here as a small bump, but it's bigger than that. A lot of it is on the posterior side. This hole is the obturator foramen. Now, when you first look at this x-ray, you probably thought you were looking from anatomical view from the front. You probably are. But if you look down here, here's the ischial tuberosity. Ischial tuberosity here. And that would be on the back or posterior side of the assembly. So how is this getting so turned around? It's not. It's just that we can see right through from one side to the other on an x-ray. The pubic crest is up here. And this suture is the pubic symphysis. Pubic symphysis. Now, as to those words I mentioned a little bit earlier, pelvic rim, true pelvis, and false pelvis. Here's the pelvic rim, all the way around. That's what each of us had to slip through unless we were delivered by cesarean. We had to slip through here. Okay, so that's the pelvic rim. This down here looks to be 90 degrees. And if it's 90 degrees or more, this is a female. Okay. I will never ask you one that's exactly 90 or anything like that. I'll exaggerate. I'll find one that's got 120 degrees or something, or 30 degrees, so that you know it's a male. If you hit somebody below the belt in boxing, you're hitting this area here, somewhere below the belt. And this is the false pelvis up here. If you have a skeleton and can put your fist down and through the pelvic rim, down farther, you'll be able to touch the coccyx, you'll be able to touch the bladder, you'll be able to touch the ovaries, okay? You'll be able to touch the sigmoid colon. That's much deeper. You can't, in boxing, you're not going to hit somebody that deep. Okay? That area is the true pelvis. The true pelvis is smaller than the so-called false pelvis. False pelvis extends essentially from the iliac crests all the way down the anterior of the body. We just did the knee, but this is a nice x-ray. This has got to be our fibula. It's got to be on the lateral side. This is the head of the fibula then. This is a lateral condyle, and this is a lateral condyle. This is the medial condyle of the femur and the medial condyle of the tibia. Looking at the top of the tibia, these 2 points are the eminence. The tibial tuberosity to which the patellar ligament attaches is in this area here, but it does not show. It's not good enough. I would not dare to ask you a question that didn't show it properly. It's a good one though. The knee from the profile, the patella. Now, can you tell me if you're looking at the lateral or the medial side?
Is this lateral?
The answer really is you can't tell. Okay, because again, you're seeing right through. It's actually medial because I cheat like you could do. You can see the letter R for the right one. So we must be looking from the medial towards the right side. I would never pull that kind of stuff on you. Don't worry about that. All I could get out of this is the head of the fibula itself. Okay. And I can't really tell which is lateral and which is medial. So that's the end of the usefulness of this particular x-ray. Okay, this one's labeled. Not very helpful. I really can't see the patella. Well, we knew that was the femur and tibia, fibula, and patella. So I guess we got everything out of that one we could. Here's the ankle. This is the bottom of the tibia, and that little portion that hangs down or projects downward, that's the medial malleolus. Medial malleolus, and the fibula has at its distal end the lateral malleolus. These two hug the one bone of the foot that they are associated with. That's this bone here. You don't see it all because there's too much covering over it, but you still should know it. This is the talus. Any terminology like fibular shaft, okay, that you don't see in our study guides, those illustration guides, will not be asked. Calcaneus shows really well here. Here's the talus. Here's the navicular in front of the talus. We've got two bones, we've got tibia, and we got fibula. And the distal part of the fibula is going to be the lateral malleolus. Well, they think that they can see the cuboid there, but I didn't feel that was good enough. Okay, on the foot. Well, we know here's the fibula. Get it out of the way. Here's the tibia. This must be the lateral malleolus. Okay, we got two bones here. This one and this one. This is huge. This has got to be the calcaneus, and this would be the talus. The talus comes and articulates with the navicular, and the navicular articulates with the three cuneiforms. One, it's overlapping. Two, three. And then the cuboid bone articulates with both digits 4 and 5. With as many objects that we point out on the spine, it's hard to do that with the x-ray. With the x-ray here, you can see the spinous processes. And since there's a rib attached here and here, this must be the probably T1. And since there are no ribs up above, this must be the start of C7, 6, 5, 4, and so on. Here's C1, the atlas, C2, the axis, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then C7 is the largest one, the vertebral prominence. In the lumbar region, the processes are larger. Here's the spinous process. Here's a transverse process and another one over here. There are only 5 of these vertebrae. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one's up at the top. When you look at it from a profile view, you'll see these spaces that are left underneath the pedicles. This is a pedicle, body, pedicle, transverse process. That's about all we can see right here. This area here serves as entry and exit for nerves. I'm not too keen on this one because they're not showing me. Here they show it. Okay. I was trying to figure out how they were counting more than 5 vertebrae. L5 down here. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pedicles, as I pointed out. And then above that, you have the 12th, 11th, a little bit of the 10th thoracic vertebra. Okay, so I hope you don't feel that the x-rays are going to give you a lot of trouble. Actually, I think that they're a good learning tool. How many of you are using Quizlets? Nobody?
I use Quizlet.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not recommending them. I'm not poo-pooing them either. I just was curious because I took a look at some of their stuff last night and I couldn't get a lot out of it. Okay, but I know some students find sites that have all the bones and everything. Well, anything you find like that is additional. because everything that you're going to need for the test is on our Canvas site. If, however, you do find another site that you like, and it has differences in nomenclature in the names, you go with the Canvas material, please, because that's what you'll be asked. Okay, we give you a break. Okay, and then we give you a break till 25 minutes. See you soon.
Hey, Charlie, are you there? Did he just disconnect?
I think so. Maybe something died. Maybe he's gonna be back in a second.
I
Okay, back. Okay, anybody with a question? Remember, you don't want to wait till the last minute if you're having any Wi-Fi issues. See if you can get them fixed. You got plenty of friends that can help you. I can try to help you too, but just needed to get it done before that test. The test starts at 2 o'clock. Of course, that's a week from from today. On the day of a practical, our first one a week from today, the only obligation you have to the class is to take the practical. There will be nothing else but the practical that day. You don't, once you finish it, you don't need to hang around, although I will be sending to your home or to your device the results. Okay. Do not look at, God, please don't look at Canvas grades. I think I've got them hidden from you anyway, because Canvas grades will not reflect your proper grade. They don't include extra credit if you have any coming. Canvas doesn't adjust for if I have a bad question and I want to give everybody credit for it. Canvas won't adjust it. I'll fix it. I'll have it accurate grade and I'll send it to you. Okay, but be sure you get your Wi-Fi in shape. Okay, if it hasn't been recently, if it has been, probably always will be. Okay. On days of lecture exams, the first being 2 weeks after that on the 24th, there will be lab. We will have lab after the lecture exam. Okay. Okay, let's go back. Okay, I had to sign in again. So are you able to see week 3?
Yes.
Good. We're in business. We just finished the x-rays for February 3rd. And now the lecture. The lecture is second today. Okay. That was so that we could finish the bones off as a group. You have now had all of the bone material that will appear on any of our exams, whether it's a lecture exam or the practical next week. Okay. But the lecture exam number 1 on the 24th will include material still yet to come. The muscle tissue introduction that I'm going to do right now will definitely be on lecture exam 1. Okay. There's a practice quiz 3, by the way, that you should be able to take after tonight. So you can get that done anytime. Required for the practicum next week are only numbers 1 and 2. Okay, really simple page here. Muscle tissue. Well, we're all familiar with muscles and what they do. So let's list it just to be complete. Muscles allow for motion and locomotion. What's the difference? What's the difference between motion and locomotion? God, if I offered extra credit for people who answered questions, this would be a chatterbox here. If you look around at yourself yourself in your room, at your desk, or wherever you're at, any motion that you see of yourself, that's true motion. Locomotion is when you move from one location to another. Okay. Posture. It takes sets of muscles to maintain posture. Sitting up is not as easy as it sounds. You got muscles in the front, muscles in the back and sides. They all have to come into play. If you hold your arm out and just keep it outstretched, that takes lots of different muscles working. Okay. The production of heat. Okay, muscles do produce heat, especially when they're exercised. And the circulation of blood. Muscles in small arteries called arterioles pulsate. And as they do, they push against what's ever beside them. And what's beside them is usually a small vein. And the veins have valves. The muscles bulge into the vein, push the blood forward. The blood passes the valve and can't come back. So it continues on its way to the heart. We'll go into that in great detail when we get to the circulatory system. Right now, I'm giving you these 5 things to remember that muscles do. We have 3 types of muscles in blue here: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle, also known as visceral muscle. Okay. Be aware that I often will switch the word smooth muscle with visceral muscle, just to keep everybody on their toes on that one. Skeletal muscle. Okay, skeletal muscle, that's the type that's causing the motion or movement that you're seeing in the room when you move. Okay, so is skeletal muscle voluntary? Yes or no? Well, I've given you the answer, and it's the textbook answer. Yes, skeletal muscle is voluntary. So if you decide to pick up a penny or pick up a pencil and you move your arm and your hand and whatever else it takes, that's all voluntary. Skeletal muscle is also what we call striated, streaked, ribboned. Okay, and I'm going to show you a picture of that in just a moment. Okay, backing up though, when we say that skeletal muscle is voluntary, it's not exactly true. On an exam, you are going to want to say yes if you want to get the answer correct. So you go by this chart. But haven't you ever had involuntary movement of skeletal muscle? Hasn't your eye ever started twitching? Hasn't your cheek maybe even started twitching? there's lots of parts of the body that seem to go off on their own sometimes. You know, doesn't cause us any trouble. Okay. But I know that there are times when skeletal muscle moves involuntarily. Okay. But the correct answer on a test is going to be yes. It's voluntary. Cardiac muscle, the heart muscle. We always assume that the heart muscle essentially has a mind of its own or reacts to the environment, but that it does not act voluntarily. Okay. It is also striated, and I'll show you that picture in just a second. Okay. Cardiac muscle, then, the textbook answer is no, it's not voluntary, or that it is involuntary. But I can think of exceptions to that. I know you can too. If you want your heart to beat faster, you could just run around the block. You could be late for an important meeting or class. You could just drive faster than a bat out of hell, and your heart will start going faster. Can you just sit there and cause your heart to beat faster? Don't leave your room. Don't leave your device. Can you make your heart beat faster? Possibly by thinking of that thing that always scares you, whatever it is. Okay, I think so. Can you make your heart beat more slowly? Can you calm yourself down? Some people have difficulty with that, but others know techniques that will calm the heart down. And those would not be voluntary, actually, they'd be involuntary. The correct answer, though, on a test is the heart is involuntary. How could you, on the other hand, calm yourself down? What techniques are there available?
Deep breathing.
Deep breathing, yes. People always say, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. So that's a great idea. What else?
Meditate.
Meditate, I like the word. Okay, I'll come back to that one. Anything else?
Music therapy.
What kind of therapy?
Music. Listening.
Music? Not if it's, I don't know whose kind of music it would be. Your own type of music, I'm sure.
There's
Okay,
also like
that's a good
water
one.
therapy. Like you get in a pod, like it's salt water, and it's supposed to like lower your blood pressure and calm you down. And you're just floating in like a pod. So it's
I
like
bet that works.
I tried it once with my mom, and it's just it's all like 80% salt or something like that, and you're just floating in the water, and they shut the pod, so you're like in a circle, and it's just, they just play music and lights. It's I don't know, it was like an experience.
Huh.
But yeah.
Okay, thanks, Diana.
I think
Also, like drinking and eating can actually calm down a person. Like I learned this in therapy that whenever a person can get anxious, if they eat a little or drink a little, that can calm them down.
Okay, I haven't tried that one. I get nervous sometimes. I used to get true panic attacks. By true panic attacks, I mean everybody says, "Oh, I'm having a panic attack" and everything, but my first panic attack happened about 4 o'clock in the morning in my office over at the science math building, the old science math building. I'd gotten up earlier, around 2:30, to put a lecture together on house plants of all things. It'd be calming, but scientific names and all this other stuff I had to memorize really fast. Got my lecture together, drove over to school, got there, as I said, at 4 in the morning. What am I doing at Saddleback at 4 in the morning? And I'm in my office alone. I hadn't seen anybody at all. And I looked for my notes because I want to study them. And I had left them at home. All the work that I had done to get up early and do this thing. So I just had a fit. I was alone, so I figured that have my own fit. I started throwing books. I started throwing things against the wall. It didn't make any difference to me. But then it just hit me. I had a panic attack. I couldn't control myself. Heart was beating like crazy. I went outside, and there was only my car and somebody else's. So I kicked the tires on the other car, not mine, and that didn't help. Hitting myself, nothing. I didn't know what to do. Would not go away, and it stayed for over an hour. When the first the secretaries came in, she offered to take me to the emergency room. I said no, and then I said yes. When we got over there, they walked in, and the first thing the doctor said, or actually it was the nurse. Nurse said, "Have you ever had a panic attack before?" They know what it looks like, you know. It was something I didn't want to have, but after that, they came on regularly. I could be shopping at the store. I had to avoid certain places because that's where it happened before. This was debilitating, and I was only about 30 years old. 30, no, yeah, about 30, 32 years old at the time. Anyhow, went to the doctor, and they taught me deep muscle relaxation. Do you remember the Beatles? Sure, everybody knows the Beatles, but I don't like many of their songs at all. But the Beatles lost popularity amongst the older people when they brought on this Indian guru, Mahesh Mahe, or something like that, yogi, they called him. And he was teaching transcendental meditation. Okay. Now, transcendental meditation is meditation. And I'm going to tell you, it works. A lot of doctors use it now. They will call it transcendental meditation, or TM, because of the stigma attached with it. They call it deep muscle relaxation. And my God, it works so well. I'm always willing to talk to anybody about that who might want a referral or anything. So anyway, I've been about almost 40 years without a panic attack now. So great. Okay. That pod thing that you're talking about, is that you, Diana?
Oh, yeah, it was me.
Okay. In deep muscle relaxation, or TM, I just call it meditation. In my scenario, I float. I envision that I float. I don't actually float, and it really, really works. Okay, well, got to do something. Smooth muscle. Smooth muscle. That is in all of your organs, all of your internal organs, all of your blood vessels. It's everywhere. It's not voluntary though. When you have high blood pressure, these smooth muscles contract in the vessels and cause your pressure to go up. They are not striated either. Okay, leaving behind this little chart, skeletal muscle is voluntary. Cardiac and smooth or visceral are not. What's striated? Here's skeletal muscle. And you can see, I hope, the striations. It looks like the underside of a snake's belly, but it goes all the way around. You'll be asked to identify skeletal muscle at some point in the future from a slide. And you'll see these striations. The long cells are called muscle cells or muscle fibers. They are not chopped into little pieces. at least not at this magnification. And their nuclei are peripheral. These are on the edge. This is on the edge of this one. Now, some look like they're not peripheral, but they are on the top or the bottom of these cylindrical muscle fibers. The main thing is be sure you see these fibers. This is cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is chopped. And these structures here that I'm touching right now, the pointer, are called intercalated discs. Also, cardiac muscle is identified because, yes, it's striated. You can see it at the pointer. The striations are not as big or prominent as in skeletal muscle, but they are definitely there. It's like a rippling effect. And the other thing that gives away cardiac muscle is that cardiac muscle is branched. Okay, so here's a piece of cardiac muscle. Now, go right or left, this way or this way. This is branched. This would be branched coming this way. Okay, this is branched coming here or here. So if it's branched, striated, it's cardiac muscle. The nuclei are also located within the cell, not on the periphery. This, which seems unintelligible at first, is smooth muscle or visceral muscle. Each cell has a nucleus, rather elongated here. There are no striations going across. It's very difficult actually to see the distinction from one cell to the next. When I look at smooth muscle in this view, I look down and I see myself looking through water, looking through a stream, down at 1 million fish going by. If that helps you, use it. If not, you might want to develop your own little analogy for each of these pictures that we look at until you've got them down. Here's the parts of a skeletal muscle. So now we're only talking skeletal. The belly of the muscle is the mid portion. It's usually the thickest portion of the muscle. Few exceptions, but usually the thickest portion of the muscle. One end versus the other stays still during contraction. If you raise your forearm up, like to make, flex your bicep. Okay, you raise your forearm up. You're pulling the forearm, the radius and the ulna, upwards with the deltoid muscles. Those deltoids are attached at the shoulder for now. And at the other end, the radius and ulna. The end that stays stationary, that'd be at your shoulder, okay, is the origin. The end of the muscle that stays relatively stationary during contraction is the origin. The part that is drawn towards the origin is the insertion. And then again, the belly is the thicker middle portion. Now you'll see that the word tendon and tendon at each end of this pictured muscle, and that's a good use of the term because again, tendon attaches muscle to bone. Here's the definition of origin and insertion for you. It says the same thing, I hope, that I just did. Rarely a muscle can be both have its origin and insertion inverted. For instance, the rectus abdominis muscle that extends from your xiphoid process, you know where that is, to the pubic crest. This is your six-pack muscle. Okay, abdominal muscle, some people would like to refer to it as. If you're lying down on your back and you're going to do a sit-up, then you're going to bring your chest up. You're going to bring your chest up towards the pubic crest. So the origin is the pubic crest. It stays still. And the insertion would be the xiphoid process. Lie back down, and this time bring your pelvis and legs up. Curl your legs upward and try to bring them over your body. And what's going to move instead this time is the pubic crest. And the origin will, in this case, be the xiphoid process. So there are a few muscles that we have that can reverse their orientation. Actually, with that said, all a muscle can do is contract. That's all a muscle can do. So you flex your forearm, you flex your bicep muscle, you brought your forearm up. What brings your forearm back down? Either another set of muscles or gravity, if you just turn in the right direction. But the muscles that you contract, okay, can stop contracting, but they can't go the other way. A muscle can only contract. Here's some common actions. Flexion. We just said when you flex your biceps. To flex your biceps, you got to bring your forearm up. When you decrease the angle at the joint, in this case, that's the elbow. When you decrease the angle, make it smaller. This is flexion. So bringing your arm up is flexing the arm. Going the other way with the triceps underneath and pulling your arm back down makes the angle at the joint increase. That's called extension. Make a fist with all your phalanges. That's a whole bunch of flexion going on. Now, spread the fingers, and that's a whole bunch of extension going on. Abduction is when part of the body is moved away from the midline. Abduct, kidnap, take away. Abduction, so you're standing, or in your imagination, you're standing with your arms at your side. Now, lift your arms laterally. Okay. Like you're going to take off, and that's abduction. Gravity alone will bring your arms back down. But now let's take your legs and put them as close together as possible. Not in an anatomical position, but actually force them to touch each other. That would be adduction. When part of the body is moved towards the midline. Pronation is to turn palms down. I have a misprint I see, I hadn't noticed before. Pronation is also to lie face down. I'll try to get to that one tonight too. Supination is to turn palms up or to lie on your back. A lot of times, years ago, I'd hear the term, "Oh, somebody was found lying prone," and before I'd even dreamed of it, getting into anatomy, I didn't know what the word meant. Prone means face down. I got 2 more pages, I think, for you. These 2 take a little bit of attention. Okay. The muscle is in sheath with a tissue called the epimysium. Okay. It's this part of the sheath and this here, all the way around. Now, what are we looking at here? This is one muscle. I don't care which one we talk about. The tendon attaches it to the bone. Inside, it's got a bunch of groups of muscle cells, including this one that's been pulled up. This structure here, right here in the middle that's been pulled up, is a fasciculus. How many fasciculi do I have showing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one, 7. And you know, there may be an 8th one back there that I can't see. But I just want you to realize that a muscle isn't uniform throughout. It's got these bundles of muscle fibers. Muscle fiber is a muscle cell. These are the muscle fibers. I believe that's red. Okay, correct me if I'm not correct. And these are muscle fibers, and here they pulled out one muscle fiber magically, as if they could. There are 3 layers of membranes we need to know. The outer one we already looked at, the epimysium. It surrounds the entire muscle. Then we have the paramysium, which surrounds each fasciculus. So this one is correct when it says it's a fascicle wrapped by paramysium. They do not have endomysium on this picture, but this membrane, the paramysium, also extends in between the muscle cells. And then it's called endomysium. I won't leave you hanging on that. We'll go over that several times. Endomysium surrounds a muscle cell. This, where the pointer is a single muscle cell. This is a single muscle cell. Muscle cell they're showing here with slight striations. Now they look a bit better. Striations. This is skeletal muscle, and this will be striated. Push it back down in, and all of the striations for all of the muscle cells line up and will striate the edge of the fasciculus. Push the fasciculus down in, and all of the striations will line up on the outside of the muscle in appearance. And that's what we see under the microscope and saw a moment ago. Okay. This is not more difficult. This is actually the same as the last one. The tendon, we don't see it because it's off screen. Here's the belly of the muscle, thicker part, and it's been cut. Here's the epimysium again, which surrounds the muscle. But the portion of epimysium that dips in and surrounds the fasciculi is the paramysium. And here's the label for it. Then endomysium is in between the fibers. These are not histologically distinct tissues. What I'm saying is epimysium is continuous with paramysium, and that is continuous with endomysium. They are all the same type of tissue, connective tissue. It's just their position that allows the anatomist to give it a different name. Epimysium, paramysium, endomysium. And now, just like in the other drawing, we're going to pull out a fasciculus. And from that fasciculus, we're going to pull out a single muscle cell. This is the muscle cell, also known as the muscle fiber. What do you think that is? It's unlabeled. I was thinking how many points I might throw at somebody if they got it right. I think maybe 2. Doesn't hurt to guess.
Endomysium?
Is it
Wait,
endomysium?
first person said what?
Endomysium?
Andrew, you got it. Okay, sorry, you guys weren't fast enough. He was sitting there all the time waiting for this. He was waiting for the ante to go up. Okay, you can see the endomysium has been pulled out as well. And now we have the muscle fiber. It makes sense because endomysium by definition surrounds the muscle fiber. Now, I don't care about any other portion but this. I don't care about sarcolemma yet. Don't care about nuclei yet. Okay, don't care about sarcoplasm. I care about this. Out of a muscle fiber, we can also pull out a smaller cylindrical structure called a myofibril. This is the source of contraction. It takes hundreds of thousands of these to contract at one time to make a muscle move. A lot of reactions. And these are striated, barely showing in the diagram, but striated. When you push a myofibril in, and it is the source of the striations, they all line up in the muscle fiber. Those all line up in the fasciculus, and those all line up in the muscle itself. Now I'm going to leave you with this until Tuesday. And then we'll talk more about how those striations are seen, how they occur, and how muscle contraction takes place. Okay. Let me come back to you. You won't likely be studying the muscles much this weekend. It'd be good to read it over again before Monday or Tuesday, because we will lecture on it on Tuesday. But your focus, I know, even though I tell you it's an easy test, some never believe me, some never ever could. That's just their nature. And they study and study and study, or even overstudy. You should be able to pace this out so that you can enjoy the weekend too. If you haven't been keeping up, No, it's gonna be a bad weekend. Okay, questions?
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yes,
So the lab exam is on Tuesday,
no. Thursday,
on Thursday,
A week
and
from-
it's
on the 10th,
on the 10th, and it's 100 questions.
yes?
Okay, and how long do we have to complete it?
You know, I'm thinking that through, okay? Normally, you know, I don't mind being honest with you. But sometimes honesty insults people, or they think they're being insulted. And I don't, it's not what I'm trying to do here. I think we normally give in the classroom, face to face, an hour and 20 minutes. When I give an hour and 20 minutes to a online class, they do so much better. I'm sorry to say it, but I know some of them have notes all scattered around the room. I don't use Proctorio. I would have to use Proctorio to give you the full hour and 20 minutes. You don't want me to use that junk, do you? Do you know what Proctorio is? You love it?
Yeah, not a fan.
Nobody's a fan of Proctorio. It'll cheat you every time. It'll kick you out. It'll accuse you. I'm not going to use it. So what I have to do, obviously I've had people do this. They leave the exam, look at something else, and come back with the answer. They got too much time. And then they get too good of a score. Well, it's not fair to everybody who went before and will be coming after. And how do I know they leave the test? Because Canvas records every move you make as well. It doesn't record your breathing or your eyes or your mouth or anything like that. But it records how long you spend on a question. And if you leave the test, it says so. And it also then says when you came back. So I can sense how many questions, are being answered in a certain length of time, how much time people are taking. How is it possible that they need that much time? And I realize they're going for the answer someplace else. And I flat out ask and tell them if they want to admit it to me, we'll forget it the one time. You know what? They always admit it to me. So I know it happens. They tell me it happens. There's so many ways. If I could teach you how to, or anybody, not you personally, please, okay? If I could teach somebody how to cheat on a test, boy, I'd have a full class. I know that. But so what I'm going to do, I'm not going to give you an hour and 20 minutes. First off, one reason you don't need it, you don't have to go from station to station in the classroom. Wait for somebody to get up so that you can answer the question. You just sit in one spot. The question is always right before you when you want it. So you save time that way. So I have experimented with giving an hour and 10 minutes. Okay, so that's the range I'm looking at. And the grades are just great. As long as people know that they have to know it themselves. Okay. I don't know. Am I making any sense to you?
That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So there'll be less time, but trust me on this one thing. I will be going back to the last 4 or 5 classes that I've had. They've all been online. I don't like it either. But I can tell it shows what the average time taken on the test was, what was needed on the test. And sometimes it's surprising how well the students do with less time. Okay. You're going to have enough time if you know it. Okay, I promise you that. You're going to have enough time if you know it. If something goes wrong during the test, pictures don't load up, I can adjust the time. Always taking care of anything like that. Okay. You know, there were two students I had that told me they look at the screen at the question and they recite the question to themselves. Okay, they just mouth the question to themselves and then they get their answer. Proctorio accused them of cheating and kicked them both out. You know, and all they were doing was taking the test. You know, you can't look around. You can't. No. I don't think I'd enroll in the class. You know, I knew ahead of time that they were going to use Proctorio.
I looked at a lamp and it kicked me out, and that was on my desk.
And what happens when you get kicked out?
Well, my professor was like, I will watch the thing and see what happened, but I think he forgot, so I kind of just didn't get any credit.
Yeah, I mean, how do you have to retake the whole test?
Yeah, pretty much. I would have to, but the thing is, he just didn't let me.
You know, it takes all types. That's all I can say. I don't.
It kicked me out, but it was because it made my computer crash. So I ended up, I noticed when I would, because I would install and uninstall it for the exams, and it would always make my computer crash. So when it kicked me out, I would have to email the professor about it, and she would give us a different exam at that point.
Okay, well, we're not going to use Proctorio, period. Okay. I would only set it upon somebody if I thought I needed it, and I would warn that one person ahead of time. And like I said, when I've done that, discussed it with the people, they always fess up what they were doing the first time. Don't do it the next time. And they actually just weren't living up to their potential. Now they were. So it works. You know. So no less than 60 minutes. Okay. Probably and no more than 110. Not 110. 70. I mean, I'm thinking an hour and 10 minutes. 70. Okay. You won't need the 120. If you're in special services, you'll get your accommodation. Okay. Now that pretty much was one of the discussion questions that I used to ask. What people thought of Proctorio. They came up with lots and lots of horror stories about it. I do have a short topic ready today for discussion. And again, I call it voluntary. Okay. You do not need to worry that you're missing points or anything, but you may miss some information that could help you. The information that I go over in discussion is never exclusive to discussion. You will have an opportunity to get it in Bio 11 as well. But it is sort of like review. And so we're going to end for today and this week. And those of you who want to join me in discussion, please do it in about 5 minutes. Okay, I'll wait about 5 minutes so you can go to the bathroom or something. Okay, and you know how to do that. You just back out of this class, enter into the Confer Zoom of the Bio 110 class. Okay, and again, it's sort of type of review, and it's not required. It's not required that you be there. Okay, but if you want to, come on, I'll see you in a moment. Bye-bye. I'm gonna cut us all off.